My name is Lucy Anderson. I am 60 years old and I worked in a monastery in Ohio for many years. I lived a life devoted to prayer and service. Then one day during a birthday celebration at the monastery, I collapsed after eating a piece of cake. Everything went dark. I could not feel my body or my heart anymore. There was no pain, only emptiness. I was no longer in the room with the sisters. I could not hear their voices. It felt like I was floating in a space without limits. Then I saw a light. It was not like other light. It was white and bright, moving like a warm heart. It pulled me toward it gently. I was not walking, but moving forward as if something unseen was carrying me. As I moved closer, the light became stronger, and a figure began to appear. I could not see who it was yet, but I felt that this presence was familiar. It was powerful, but not frightening. The fear I had felt in the darkness began to disappear, replaced by something like awe. "Lucy," a deep voice said, calm but full of weight, "it is time for you to see what you have always refused to believe." The voice did not just reach my ears. It moved through my whole being as if each word was placed into my heart. I felt peace but also a growing tension, like a judgment was coming that I could no longer run from. "You never believed in hell," the voice continued. "You always thought it was just a story, a warning for others. Now I will show you what you chose not to see." In that moment, everything changed. The light that held me withdrew, and I saw something my mind could never have imagined. Before me was a deep valley filled with enormous flames. The fire rose up like mountains coming from cracked and blackened ground. The air was thick with smoke and ash. Each breath felt like swallowing fire. The sky was black, cut through with red lightning that tore the darkness with great force. But worse than the fire was what I saw within it. Men and women were surrounded by flames, screaming without stopping. Their cries cut through my bones. Some reached their hands up as if trying to escape, but their eyes held no hope. Others twisted and suffered with a pain that went beyond the physical. And what shocked me most was that I knew these people. They were Christians. Some had prayed with me. I had met others at spiritual events and conferences. I recognized their faces. I saw women who had served in churches, priests, people known for their Christian work. Now they were covered in flames, their hands still held in prayer, but heaven did not answer. "Why?" I whispered, shaking. I could not look away. "Because like you, they lived in pride," the figure replied, not angry, but speaking truth that cut. "They prayed, yes, but never truly opened their hearts. They judged others and felt they were better. They thought their religious lives alone would get them into heaven. But they ignored the hidden sin in their hearts. They lived believing they were already forgiven, that heaven was guaranteed. They never thought about what their pride would cost them." Those words struck me hard. All the prayers I had said, the long nights of prayer, the confessions, the work I had done, they now felt empty and meaningless. I had always told myself that simply following religious practices, that being a nun, would keep me safe for eternity. But the souls before me had done the same, and now they burned forever. Then I began to see more. I could understand the truth about each soul. I saw a woman I had known well. She had worked in missions for years, but her heart was always judging those who did not work as hard as she did. She believed she was right because she followed every rule, but she had never shown mercy to others. She had been harsh to those who were not like her. Now she was in the flames, her hands reached up, but no answer came. I saw a priest that many people loved. He was famous for his words about God's love. But behind those words, there was never real change in his heart. He enjoyed the attention people gave him and felt he was better than others. Now his soul suffered in the fire. His beautiful words were not enough. As I watched more and more, I understood something that changed everything. I saw that prayer alone is not enough. Service alone is not enough. Attending church alone is not enough. If the heart does not empty itself of its own pride, if there is no true humility, if God is not placed first in everything, then even the strongest faith means nothing. "Lucy," the figure said, his voice serious but also kind. "Prayers and church alone are not enough.
Many of those you see here believe that looking faithful to others was all they needed to reach heaven. But faith is not just words or outward actions.
It is something that happens deep inside the heart every day. It is living with the love I taught you and with true justice as well." "But how is this possible?" I stammered. "These people were faithful. They were real Christians. How can they be here?" "They are here," the figure replied, "because they forgot what matters most. Real change of heart and true humility. Pride blinded them. They never really confessed their sins with deep honesty. They never let go of thinking they were better than others. They prayed, yes, but only so others would see. They wanted people to think they were holy, but they never let my love truly change their souls. A chill ran through me. I felt those words were directed at me. My whole religious life flashed before my eyes. I had prayed every day. I had helped others. I had taught other sisters. But how many times had I done these things because it was expected, or because I wanted people to like me? How many times had I quietly judged those who did not follow the faith the way I did? My heart squeezed as the cries of the suffering grew louder. These people were not strangers to me. They were not criminals or people who cursed God. They were Christian souls, many of them faithful, many of them people I had known in my years of service. But there was no salvation in their eyes, only eternal suffering that came from faith that stayed on the surface. I saw a man I recognized. He was a priest who had led thousands of people to God in Africa. He always spoke with passion about God's love, but now he was in the flames, looking into nothing with a face full of terror. Even him, I whispered in shock. Even him, the voice replied, because even though he did good works, his heart lacked humility. He taught about love but lived by judging others. He looked down on those who did not meet his standards. He never truly asked my forgiveness. Instead, he wanted people to praise him. I kept moving through those suffering souls. I saw women who had served churches, church leaders, teachers of faith. Some had been praised while they lived for how spiritual they were, but now they burned. They had used faith like a shield, a religious cover that hid sins they never confessed. The pain was not just in their bodies. It was spiritual, an endless regret that ate them from inside. Pride is poison for the soul, Lucy, God said. Many Christians have fallen into this trap, thinking their faith kept them safe from judgment. But I see the heart, and a heart full of pride cannot come near me. Those simple words hit me like an earthquake inside. I had always believed I was a devoted servant. Now I doubted everything. But how can I avoid the same mistake? I asked with a shaking voice. How can I know I am not living in pride? Humility is the key, Lucy, God finally said gently. Humility means knowing every day that you are not perfect, that you need my forgiveness, not just in words, but with your whole heart. It means never thinking you are better than anyone else. It means not judging, but loving. And most of all, it means knowing that salvation is not something you earn. It is a gift. No one, no matter how faithful, can save themselves. Tears ran down my face, not just from fear, but from a deeper pain, the pain of understanding how blind I had been, how much I had taken for granted. For years I had believed that being good was enough. Now I understood that without a humble heart, nothing would matter in eternity. Then I saw another part of hell. At first it looked less frightening. There were no great flames or piercing screams, but I quickly understood that the suffering here was even worse. The fire did not burn on the surface, but hid like coals under ash, a quiet, invisible torture that went deep inside. This was the place for Christians who had lived thinking their faith made them better than others. This was a different kind of hell, not just physical, but deeply spiritual. I saw people walking slowly in circles, their eyes empty. They relived their lives over and over. Every proud word they had spoken, every thought they did not confess, every action they did for show rather than love. Their suffering was not just pain, it was knowing, an endless knowing of all the chances they had to truly turn around and had wasted. The torture was understanding they had been so close to heaven, yet lost it to pride. Their cries were not screams of physical pain, but groans of regret, the weeping of those who finally saw clearly what they had refused to see. I saw an old man sitting with his face in his hands. When he looked up at me, his eyes met mine. I was like you, he said in a broken voice. I thought I was saved. I thought my faith was enough. But I judged others. I lived knowing I was better. And now I am here. I could not hold his gaze. In those eyes was a regret that would never end. But what struck me most was that his story was like mine. God turned to me. His voice was calm, but I felt the weight of the moment. Do you understand now, Lucy? Do you see why hell is not just for known sinners? Many Christians come here not because they did not believe, not because they did not pray, but because they never truly let go of the pride in their hearts. They thought their faith would automatically save them without doing the real work, the deep change within. Those words pierced my soul. Everything I had believed in seemed to fall apart. I had prayed faithfully. I had lived as a nun. But now I understood I had missed something important: true humility. I had never grasped until that moment what it meant to be truly humble before God. Then God's voice became softer. But there is still hope for you, Lucy. You are here to learn, to understand what so many ignore until their last breath. I have shown you all this not to judge you, but to give you another chance. In an instant, everything disappeared. The fire and darkness vanished like smoke in wind. I opened my eyes. The sound of machines was the first thing I heard. My heart was beating fast but steady. My hands shook. My breath was weak, but I was alive. Beside me was a sister in tears. She had called for help and the doctors had saved me. But I knew it was not them who brought me back. God had given me another chance. My body had returned. But my soul was no longer the same. As soon as I could speak, I began to share what I had seen. I called my leader and asked for an urgent meeting. That same evening, I found myself sitting in a room with several church leaders from my area. They listened to me carefully, asked questions, and asked me to write down everything exactly as I remembered it. Some seemed moved by what I said. Others looked skeptical. One older man shook his head and said quietly that it was probably just suggestion, just emotional upset. But I knew I had to speak. God had shown me something beyond death, beyond time. He had spoken to me and revealed eternity. I could not stay silent. No rule or authority could stop a voice that comes from the Spirit. So I wrote letters, I made calls, I went to local news programs and asked to be heard. Someone finally gave me a chance to speak publicly. What I experienced was not just an event. It was a calling from God. I had seen hell not as a symbol or a story, but as a real, terrible place. And I understood with terrible clarity how close I had come to eternal suffering. I, who had prayed, served, and fasted. And yet it was not enough. Now I know that being called Christian in name only, out of habit or because of culture, saves no one. Prayers said without heart, rituals done out of routine, or sitting in church on Sunday mean nothing. All of these can trick a person, but they do not trick God. I have learned that every single day must be lived with deep humility, true change of heart, and the courage to look at one's own soul and say, Lord, I need you. I am nothing without your mercy. Pride is a quiet poison. It hides behind good works, behind service, behind religious roles. But it is pride that I saw send so many souls to hell. Now every prayer I say has different meaning. It is not an empty gesture. It is a cry from my soul. Each day I live knowing that nothing is promised. That salvation is a gift to guard carefully, not something to wear with pride. Faith is not a banner to wave. It is a path to walk on bent knees with a listening heart. I know I am not perfect. Because of that, I know that every day I must fight against myself. My salvation does not depend on what I say to others, but on what I let God say to me in silence. Believing is not enough. Praying is not enough. Saying, Lord, Lord is not enough. Real faith is constant change, constant purification, making one's heart look like the heart of Christ. Now that you know what I have seen, you also have a responsibility. Silence is guilt. It is not enough to listen and move on. This message is now yours too. Help me share it. Send it far and wide. Because this is clear. There is one sin among the most common and overlooked that is taking many souls away from heaven. And the world needs to know. Pride is the main door to hell. Help me close it for many. Please do not stay silent. If you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications so you receive every new message. Leave a comment below and tell us where you are listening from. Share this testimony with everyone you know. Send it to friends, family, and prayer groups. Make it go viral. This message must reach hearts everywhere. Thank you for listening to me. May God bless you and protect you always.